Yes, people, welcome back to the 1894 for a City versus Sporting Lisbon preview, the second leg of our Champions League last 16 game. We are 5-0 up. Let's get into our thoughts. Right, Joe, as I said in the intro, we are 5-0 up on the aggregate score. Now, when we did the preview for the first leg of this game, I don't know who I did it with at the time, but I said, if possible, try and put the tie to bed in the first leg. And we essentially did that, didn't we? Now, I'm not one for tempting fate or being, as overly arrogant, but listen, a 5-0 lead should be or is more than enough to carry us into the quarter final. But listen, it's an interesting one. It's a tough one. We're just off the back of a 4-1 win over Man United. The players are coming down off a high, but there is still stuff to play for here. The quarter final draw, I'd say, will be next week. These players who play against Sporting tonight will want to put their name in the hat for these games. What are your thoughts going into this one, Joe? It's a bit of a difficult one. It's more of a game for just getting in, getting out, getting the job done, hope for no injuries, etc., etc.
I mean, what else can you say apart from, we've got enough injuries already. Just try not to get any more. That's what this game is about. We've got three first-team defenders available, so I don't know what he's going to do there at the back. And this is a game where, as long as we don't get battered, which, let's be honest, we do lose a couple of games, but we never well and truly get turned over like 5-0. We're gonna be fine. I think we're already through, and this would be an opportunity where normally you'd get people shouting for Pep to play the kids, play Delap, play McAtee, etc., etc. We know he's not going to do that. He's going to give respect to Sporting, despite already being firmly through to the next round, and it'll be a fairly strong first 11 like it normally is, which it's a bit disappointing, but it's nothing new. Pep does this all the time, so there isn't really that much to talk about apart from you can guess a few players we're going to start, a few players who weren't involved in the derby, players like Jesus who haven't been involved recently because of injuries. You'd imagine he'd get some more minutes. So it's all about getting some fitness from a few players, getting them back on form. We've got an international break coming up, so it's just about keeping players fresh and fit, especially defensively. We can't really afford another injury.
Yeah, it's funny to talk about the players that might play, because according to Pep's press conference this morning, I've got a few quotes here. He says we only have 14 players available to play against Sporting. The quote here is, "We'll be in trouble, but it's our job, our duty, and we have to do it. No discounts. I'm not asking for them to perform like Manchester United. Football is not like this, but try." And then there was also another tweet here. This is all from City Extra's Twitter, talking about young players. You mentioned the kids that we would like to see play: CJ Egan-Riley, Shea Charles, Luke Mbete, James McAtee, Samuel Edozie, Keiki, and Liam Delap are all training with the first team this afternoon. So whether they'll start or not is one question, but I would be very confident some of them, if not most of them, will feature in some shape or form. Obviously, you've got quite a few injuries in defence, so the likes of Egan-Riley, I don't know who else is there, and Mbete will probably see him. He's in our predicted starting 11. He'll probably get a run. But listen, it's a chance for, the kids to get, or the kids, it's a funny way to put it, the younger players in the squad, or the up-and-coming players to get an opportunity, a Champions League night. But it's also an opportunity for Pep to rotate even a little. You can take someone like Rodri out and put Fernandinho in, give Rodri essentially a week off, more than a week, before we play Palace on Monday, because the Palace game on Monday is absolutely far more important than this game against Sporting Lisbon. Now, I'm not one to discredit or be arrogant or be disrespectful to opposition, but the fact of the matter is we're so far ahead on this tie that the game against Palace, getting 3 points down at Selhurst Park, is far more important. And also, just to add on top of that, we beat Man United 4-1. Amazing result, amazing achievement, amazing results for the club to get that sort of hoodoo off our back of United coming to the Etihad and having one over us. And it was also a great performance for so many players. But this game is an opportunity as well to keep that winning mentality. Winning breeds winning. Keep the winning motivation. Keep winning in the team. Keep going. Keep it. It's a cycle. We seem to play our best football. We've agreed, me and you, in the past, Joe, that when we do play every 3 or 4 days, we play our best football. So I'm actually glad we have this midweek game, even though the tie is pretty well wrapped up. I'm glad we have it, because we need 90 minutes. The team needs to play every 3 or 4 days just to keep it going. I don't like when we have a week off for some reason. I don't know what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's important that we keep having these midweek games because we need to keep players in rhythm. Even if we do think he's going to rotate a lot, we still need, it's a squad game. We don't have the biggest of squads, but we probably have one of the best squads in terms of the talent that we have available when other players are unavailable. So it's important to have these midweek games. Again, that's what we use the cups for. We usually don't see many EDS players in the cups either. It's usually a second string side mixed with a few first team players because he wants to keep players, within rhythm, winning all the time. That's what he wants. And look, we keep saying this, we're in the business end of the season. We need to keep winning as many games as possible just to keep going because not only is it detrimental if we go and drop points because Liverpool can catch up on us in the league, or if we get knocked out of a cup competition, that it gets rid of all the momentum. If you lose, you have to start another run, you have to gain more momentum again. So it's important just to, regardless of how over the tie is, you still need to win to just keep this run going, because after that Spurs game, we had a couple of games where we just failed to get going, and we could have slipped up there as well. And thankfully we got through it. And then United was just, we kicked into another gear. We just turned up all of a sudden. The performance was night and day compared to like Everton. So it's important to keep this going because I don't want a repeat of, say, Spurs, like after Spurs, for a couple of games where we could be a bit slow, especially because we've got FA Cup. FA Cup's after Palace. I think it's the weekend after Palace. So again, if we want to get through in there and win as many trophies as possible, winning only helps.
Also, in terms of the actual Champions League itself, which is, of course, the competition we're playing in against Sporting Lisbon, I do believe, regardless of how far ahead we are in the tie, it is important to just keep winning in that competition. Keep yourself feeling confident, in good shape, and feeling fearless. Because after tomorrow night or tonight's game, we're 5 games away from winning the competition. You got the 2 quarterfinal games, 2 semi-final games, and then the elusive final. So I think it's important that we go in with as clean a record as possible, saying we've won as many games as possible, and tonight shouldn't be any different at all. But listen, in terms of injuries, we spoke a little bit about the defence. We're quite weak there. There's a number of injuries. Well, we're not weak, but we're missing a couple of key players. Ruben Diaz, Kyle Walker, Nathan Ake, and João Cancelo. So it will be not so much a makeshift back four, but there definitely is room for manoeuvre and rotation and seeing possibly some faces that we don't see too regularly. So with that much said, let's get over to our predicted starting 11 and see who we chose. It was a tough one. Right, so we're going to pop up our predicted starting 11 up on screen right now. As always, give us your thoughts down below in the comments. Would you pick anybody different? Is there anybody you want to see? Anybody you don't want to see? Let us know all of your thoughts. So, as always, we've gone with Ederson and nets. We possibly would have gone with Zach Steffen on this occasion, but he is, I believe, still carrying a knock, or he's recovering from a knock of some sort. So it would have been an opportunity for Zach Steffen, of course. He'd be disappointed not to be available for this one. But Ederson, reliable as ever. Now, the back four, as I spoke about in the last moments of the first segment there, is a bit of a headache for Pep because the 2 main rightfuls are back or are out injured, Cancelo and Walker, which means through process of elimination, Zinchenko will slot into left full. He hasn't played a huge amount of football recently either, but listen, he's reliable, Zinchenko. The same, particularly last season. Bear in mind, this stage of the competition last season, Zinchenko was absolutely crucial for us. He was fantastic whenever he was called upon in the knockout stage of the Champions League last season. So he's been here, he's experienced. I trust Zinchenko to do a good job. And of course, there's personal pressure on players to do well in this game because they want to put their name and then they have to be selected for future teams. But in terms of the result, it's just avoid a complete calamity, and we should be perfectly fine. Then at the 2 centre halves, obviously Ake is injured, Ruben Diaz is injured, so Laporte once again through process of elimination will play in the left side centre half for us. And then Luke Mbete is someone that Pep has spoke about highly in the past, and also spoke about him briefly in his press conference yesterday morning. So that leads us to believe Mbete will slot in, and what an opportunity is for him. A Champions League night, possibly, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's his first ever Champions League appearance if he does get the start. Massive opportunity for him and any of the other younger players who get a chance. Then once again, seeing as we have absolutely no right full back available, John Stones, who has done it a couple of times recently and done a very good job, or a good job I should say, will come in for us. We think that's the obvious option. Joe, it's not a strange back four. This, you got Stones and Laporte and Zinchenko, but big opportunity for Luke Mbete.
It would be a big opportunity if he plays, but I mean, will he play? I think there is 3, maybe 4 different ways you can go about this back four for Sporting. I think, either him, you can even go from Bete, or even someone like Finley Burns. I don't even know if he's still at the club. He's probably out online. I don't really keep track of them things, but it could be him. I've seen some calls for Fernandinho slotting in the back line somewhere, whether it be him at centre-half again, like he did a couple of seasons ago, or whether it be him at right-back and he plays a similar role to what Cancelo would, where he inverts into the midfield and we become a back three. That could work, or CJ Egan-Riley. I remember he got some pre-season minutes. Pretty sure he played against Wickham earlier on this season, so it could be absolutely anything. Only thing with Mbete is he's another left footer, so it would be a dual left-footed centre-back partnership, which he might not go for because that might not be what he wants, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter too much because 3 of those defenders are more than capable themselves, and they'll be guiding whoever it is that's there, unless it's Fernandinho, who doesn't need any guidance. But if it is an EDS player, they'll obviously need to just guide him along, and it should be fine. As we said before, we're pretty much already through bar a calamity, and it's not a completely EDS or makeshift back four, so we shouldn't be in too much trouble defensively.
Yeah, I have full faith. I mean, Sporting Lisbon, they didn't put us under any real defensive pressure in the first leg, did they? So it's just a great opportunity for those who do get to play, however young or experienced they are. As I keep mentioning, now is the time where players really need to put their hand up and show their worth to get themselves involved in the next round, and of course Premier League fixtures too. Moving into the midfield, the natural rotation that Pep seems to go for in these situations this season is just take Rodri out, give him the rest when possible, and put Fernandinho in. Defensive midfield is one of, if not the most demanding position on the pitch. A lot of running, a lot of hard work, a lot of grafting, and sometimes very unrewarding. So to give Rodri a break whenever possible, Pep does, and we think Fernandinho will lead the team out tonight and play in that defensive midfield role, giving Rodri a bit of a break before Monday night. And then we've gone with Gundo and De Bruyne just in front of him. Now, I ideally wouldn't like to see particularly De Bruyne play. I think it would be better to give him a rest and save him for Palace on Monday night. You don't want to risk injury. De Bruyne has had problems with injury a lot over the last 18 months, so I think any unnecessary football should be avoided. But we know Pep, I think you mentioned on the first part of the show, does like to show as much respect as possible to the opposition regardless of the scoreline or the aggregate score, so we think De Bruyne will play beside Gundo. It's a strong midfield, Joe. You can't really complain, and you know what you're getting from these 3 players. They're all very experienced and very talented players as well.
I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of this midfield for a regular game, but again, ties over. Doesn't matter to me. Fernandinho comes in by virtue of the rotation. It's the only other option we've got. He's got to play football somewhere. He's a leader on and off the pitch. He doesn't get much football, so now would be an opportunity to, keep him going, because say Rodri was to get injured again, then he'd be relied on a little bit. The reason why I say I'm not a particular fan of this midfield is because Fernandinho doesn't have the legs anymore, and we know Gundogan and De Bruyne is not the most mobile midfield too, but I'm not too bothered about this game. If it was a game that actually meant a lot, like the result actually meant something that we had to win, then maybe I'd be going mad over it. But look, I think De Bruyne taken off in the derby 70 minutes or so into the game, so got 20 minutes rest. I think it's important that he's just had a good game. He's come off the back of a very good game, probably his performance of the season so far. You need to keep him going. We saw how inconsistent he's been this season, how frustrating it's been at times. I think the consensus was you play him into form now that you've got him into, well, possibly into some sort of form. You keep playing him so he continues on this form, because we need him firing. We need him playing like he was against United, especially with the running that we have. We have Liverpool in a month, so big games coming up. We have Liverpool sandwiched in between 2 quarterfinals in Champions League, so it's massive that we keep players on form. And then Gundogan hasn't got a lot of football recently. I think he has an argument to have deserved more considering what he did last season, and he usually comes in, gives a 7 out of 10, works in silence most of the time. So again, it's an opportunity to give Fernandinho and Gundogan some minutes, and will be Bernardo Silva. I just don't see it after the 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tricky one for De Bruyne. I mean, yeah, he's the kind of player that you need to keep playing while he's in form, because it seems to be whenever he's missing for a couple of weeks or a game or two, it maybe affects him a little bit. Moving into the front 3 anyways, I just want to preface this a little bit by saying from the midfield onwards, there's a lot of room for younger players to come in. I mean, we've gone with Sterling, Grealish, Jesus up front, because Sterling and Jesus didn't play in the derby. Pep will want to get some minutes in their legs, make them maybe a bit sharper or ready for Palace on Monday if he feels they're the right options. But you could see, not Palmer, sorry, he's still injured. James McAtee, we said, trained with the first team. Liam Delap, he did play a little bit, I believe, in the first tie, didn't he? Or the first leg. You could see him, I don't know about start this game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a good half an hour. I think it's something Pep should look into. I've called for it a lot recently as a good option, a good plan B for when things aren't going our way. We've had plenty of games recently where we're spamming crosses into the box and there's absolutely no one there, and there's no sign of anyone going to be there. So keep giving Liam Delap minutes when possible. He could really be worth calling upon, even in a big game. It's definitely an option. So I'd like to see him get a chance. But listen, Grealish was absolutely fantastic against Man United. Let's call a spade here, Joe. He really was. Pep keeps saying it. Do not judge Grealish based on his numbers, based on goals and assists. We do that with players all the time. Players for other clubs. I won't name drop anybody. We say, he must be class because he's got X amount of goals and assists. But then when you actually look at him on the pitch, or certain players, they're not great. Grealish gives a lot to our team. He creates a lot of space for other players. He's tricky for defenders, and he was fantastic against United. But I think he's really starting to understand the way Pep wants to play, and he's adapting, possibly even quicker than expected. So credit to him. He's going to start for us tonight. And then Jesus and Sterling. Sterling, similar to Gundo, when he doesn't play, it's not that it's deserved to not play, because he's had a good few months now. But once again, an opportunity for him to get his name back in the mix for the big games coming down the line. And Jesus, I think, has a point to prove. He's gone under the radar a lot, Jesus, recently, because he's not been involved really. I think he had an injury there for a while, but these are times that he needs to prove why he still should be in this team. I think there's a question mark over it. I'd love to get your thoughts, Joe, in a sec, and of course everyone down below, give me your thoughts on Jesus, because it's a name we don't talk about much recently. He's just not in the mix for the starting 11. What do you think?
He, on the Jesus thing, he's been injured for a little while. I think he had an injury the same time Grealish got an injury, and he just hasn't got the minutes back in. That's not because he's a bad player. That's because he's been playing predominantly on the right, and we all know who's been playing on the right for us. It's been Mahrez, and when Mahrez is out of the team, it's been Foden or Sterling there. So it's hard for him to get a look in, really, because I don't think many people want to see him through the middle again after the countless amounts of seasons of him being a little bit wasteful. I'd like to see him get back in for this game because he just needs the football at the moment just to, maintain his fitness. He needs it. Even if we don't see him start the big games, he still needs football because he still can come off the bench and make an impact. He's very good at pressing. He's a very good impact sub. He brings a lot of energy into the team, and that could be useful in games. So he needs football somewhere, and what better time to give it when the game really isn't even on the line? And then Grealish, he didn't get a goal or an assist, but he had one of the better games on the pitch against United. It's probably his best game as well this season for us. And again, what a time to do it. I think he could drop out for someone like Delap or McAtee. I think him and De Bruyne are in sort of a similar area of either of those two could drop out for any of the EDS players that we've got available. I don't think they will now, because I think Pep, like we've said before, will just go strong, respect his opponent, and it'll be time for him to build some form as well, because, we've been calling for him to be given time. He's been given time. He's had a good game. If he has another good game here, then you'd see him starting for the foreseeable future. We saw what he did to Aaron Wan-Bissaka on Sunday, a notable good one-on-one defender who's given Sterling a horrid time over the past couple of years. He rinsed him, turned him inside out. So through the middle this time, it'll be a slightly different role he's being asked to perform this time. But again, if they give the midfield, if they give the middle of the park the amount of room they did in Portugal last time out, then my word, he's going to have a field day. And then Sterling, I understood dropping him for the derby because he just never seems to have a good game against United. You play him here because, he's been on a good run. I'm surprised he didn't even get on the pitch on Sunday, but it's Pep for you.
Yeah, listen, it's a tricky one picking this 11. We had a tough time, didn't we, picking who we thought might play, because there is, like we said, only 14 senior players available, and then there's been a lot of the EDS players called up to train. So let us know your thoughts, like I said, down below in the comments, our predicted 11. And is there anybody you would like to see, anybody you're excited to see? Before we wrap it up, Joe, as always, we need to do our score predictions. 5-0 on aggregate. How is this going to finish up?
Boring old 3-0. It'll be sort of like 2-0 at half time, and we'll get another one in the second half. Just pass it around for 30 minutes like we always do. Boring City, no one likes to watch us. I'm confident in defence, even though we're a bit short there, and someone's going to have to play there that isn't even in their natural position or isn't normally around the first team. But again, those three stones, Laporte and Zinchenko, they're more than good enough to keep a clean sheet. I mean, we had Ake on the pitch at one point in Portugal, so I mean, it should be, no disrespect, it should be pretty straightforward.
3-0 from Joe, and I'm going to say 2-0. I think we're just going to get the job done. It won't be the most exciting performance. You have to bear in mind, we're coming down off a serious high on Sunday just gone, so it's just a matter of getting in, getting out, and moving on to the next round. Looking forward to the draw. I'm looking forward to seeing who we get in the next round. We're getting into the very exciting stage of this competition. So 3-0 Joe, 2-0 for myself. Let us know your score predictions down below in the comments. We'd love to know what you think. We'd love to get all your thoughts on these games for these previews. Please do leave a like on the video as well if you would. It helps us massively. We're on the road to 2,000 subs. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you after the game with our review. Good night. God bless.